Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do.
Oi amigo, amiga, você já deve ter observado que aqui no Spirit Connections damos muita ênfase em demonstrar a evidência de que existe vida antes do nascimento e após a morte do corpo físico. Mas a gente não faz isso pelo simples apego ao fenômeno. Ou nem apego a dogmas quaisquer, porque o foco na simples fenomenologia persistente ali pode nos distrair do assunto mais importante, os fatores éticos que já nos vêm sendo ensinados há tantos milênios por grandes mestres do espírito. A humanidade se autodestruirá simplesmente sem ética. E os que já se foram, os que já partiram, trazem enormes, lógicas e racionais lições do porquê temos que aprender a ser éticos. Levamos muito a sério o conteúdo que postamos aqui, porque tem a ver com as graves insistências nossas em fazer vistas grossas a esses chamamentos. O tema abordado neste vídeo é o perdão. A apresentação é do psicólogo Júlio Carvalho, um psicoterapeuta e palestrante brasileiro radicado nos Estados Unidos. Ele estuda assuntos espiritistas desde a adolescência e também trabalha como conselheiro de saúde mental na penitenciária Union County, nos Estados Unidos. Júlio nos traz essa visão interessante de um psicólogo que tem conhecimentos espirituais. Ele traz ideias bem técnicas do porquê e como devemos perdoar, principalmente sob o ponto de vista de quem foi ofendido. Sim, porque também, como todos nós erramos muito eticamente falando, precisamos também saber como perdoar é importante para que possamos nos perdoar também, né? Sob o ponto de vista daquele que também errou. A gente tem observado com atenção como as ciências que vasculham a mente humana na atualidade têm chegado a conclusões que não são nada muito modernas, mas que muitas vezes teimamos em dizer que se trata de religião, dogma. São conclusões que vão ao encontro do que muito tem se falado em termos espirituais. As revelações que vêm por meio da mediunidade controlada, assistida eticamente e vigiada, trazem a racionalidade das leis da vida de uma maneira que os ensinos antigos, das antigas escrituras, se tornam claros e fáceis de serem entendidos. A questão é que estamos todos conectados de alguma forma, e se tiramos a vida de alguém hoje, poderemos receber esse alguém amanhã como filho ou filha nesta outra encarnação, outra vida. Se roubamos de alguém as oportunidades ou objetos, poderemos ter uma vida com maiores dificuldades no campo das chances de progresso. A lei de causa e efeito tão falada até na Bíblia, sem o entendimento de conexão em que nos encontramos, sem a ideia da reencarnação, por exemplo, se torna vaga e sem lógica, e o perdão também pode entrar nessa conta mal feita. Mas você poderá dizer, mas não haverá então misericórdia? É pão, pão, queijo, queijo, olho por olho, dente por dente na lei de Deus? Sim, claro, há misericórdia, pelo que nós estudamos. A frase do apóstolo Pedro, quando disse o amor cobre uma multidão de pecados, tem tudo para ser real. Observe essas passagens de O Livro dos Espíritos de Allan Kardec e Emmanuel, o guia de Chico Xavier. Bem, a gente sabe que o perdão é algo recomendado por grandes avatares de espíritos, de Sócrates, Forri a Jesus Cristo. E o Júlio Carvalho nos falará sob a ótica da ciência de paradigma espiritual e de sua prática e conhecimento na área. É imperdível, espero que gostem.
Spirit Connections. Please subscribe.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and we wish everyone peace in our hearts. Most people, unfortunately, in my personal experience, have a hard time forgiving because they don't know what forgiveness is. Usually, their definition of forgiveness is the traditional Catholic definition of forgiveness, which is to forget. According to that definition, then, if I have to forgive someone, it means I have to develop some sort of a brain disease, Alzheimer's, for example. Well, that's not possible. Reason being is because our brain has been designed by nature for the past 2 billion years in order to store information in the neural networks. Therefore, forgiveness is not necessarily to forget. But throughout our speech today, I will definitely touch on the topic of forgetfulness. So to clarify what forgiveness is, it's better to say what forgiveness is not. So let's go through some different misunderstanding of what forgiveness is. And then at the end of our lecture, then I'll let you guys know the definition of forgiveness according to modern psychology. So first misunderstanding of what forgiveness is. People believe that to forgive someone, it means that you have agreed with what they have done to you. That's misconception number one. That's not at all. By you forgiving someone, you do not agree with what they did to you. What's wrong? It's wrong. You're not redefining what they did with your forgiveness. If they have betrayed you, if they have stolen from you, it's still wrong what they have done. With your forgiveness, you're not changing the act per se. Second misunderstanding of forgiveness is that people believe that when you forgive someone, you are actually absolving them from the consequences of their actions. Forgiveness does not bring absolution from their consequences of what they have done to you. You're not changing the reaction of what they have done to you with your forgiveness. And why is that? Well, that's because there is a law called action and reaction, cause and effect. In religious terms, we have heard this by the terms, we reap what we have sown. Therefore, when I do something to someone else, that action would definitely return to me. Therefore, with my forgiveness, I am not freeing the individual from the consequences of what they have done to me. And in the Spiritist literature, which is very vast, we find numerous accounts of how this law applies into our lives. Now, even before I go on to explain this law, which most of you probably definitely know, this law, what we have to understand, it's that it's a natural law. And by being a natural law, it does not require my consent in order for the law to apply to me. Because usually when you try to explain these things to people, they will say to you, well, I don't believe in this sort of stuff. Well, this has nothing to do with how we feel about it, our belief system, because it's a natural law. It's not an American law. It's not an Italian law. It's not an Australian law. It's a natural law. And by being natural, we find it in nature, just like gravity. You know, anywhere I go, and if I release this object, gravity will pull this object down. You know, if I do this in Italy, if I do this in the US, gravity will still pull down. Well, in modern physics, actually gravity is pushing this object down. And the interesting thing about gravity is that I don't have to like gravity. I don't have to understand it. I don't have to agree with it. I could be even against it. But if I'm climbing a tree and I miss a branch, what's going to happen to me? I will fall. Even if I never heard the word gravity before, I am under the law of gravity. There's nothing I can do to escape from it. So the law of action reaction has the same ascendancy over us. There's nothing that we can do to escape it. Therefore, if I do something negative to someone else or positive, that will definitely return to me. I'll give you a tiny little example of how this works. Let's say there is this birthday person, and this person invites 100 individuals to his birthday party. So 100 individuals show up and they're in the dance floor in the middle of the living room. They're having all the fun in the world. And among the invitees, there's one person who's there for the wrong reasons. This person begins to walk around the house looking for something to steal. And he eventually finds $1,000. He puts the money in his pocket, go back to the living room, dances with everyone else like nothing took place. 3 hours later, the party's over, everyone goes home, birthday person is really happy, begins to clean the house and finds out that his $1,000 is gone. So now the first impulse is, let me call the police. I can't believe I have invited someone to my house and this person had the audacity to steal from me. So meanwhile, when he's dialing 911, he thinks to himself, what's the point? There were 100 individuals at my party. The police will never find out who took my money. So he hangs up the phone. And he sits there thinking to himself, whoever did this either had to be desperate, crazy, or really doesn't like me because I have invited this person to my home. But you know what? I'm really happy. I don't want to allow this incident to take the beauty out of my day. I'm really happy with my birthday. So whoever did this to me, I will forgive because I want to stay happy. I do not want this incident to bring any misery into this happy day. So now the thief is reassured of two things. One, he's not going to go to jail. And why? Because the birthday person never called the police to begin with. Second reason is it's because, he was forgiven. He found out through another invitee that the birthday person, someone robbed him and he even forgave that individual. So the thief is not going to go to jail and the thief was even forgiven of what he did. But the question is, with the birthday person's forgiveness, did that change what the thief did? Absolutely not. What the thief did was definitely wrong. He stole from that person. Sometimes I have even to go down to the basics. Most people would, from where I worked 5 years ago, like my good friend Anna said, I used to work in the jail system. I did it for 12 years. And sometimes I even had to explain that. What do you mean he did something wrong? The money was just laying there. So I have to go down and really explain the basics. If the action that we're trying to analyze, if it's right or wrong, if was done to us, and if we find that it's wrong, then it's wrong. If I'm about to do, I would not actually accept it. If someone else did to me, then it's wrong. That's my way of measuring if what I'm about to do, it's right or wrong. If I don't appreciate done to me, that means what I'm about to do, it's wrong. So the thief stole $1,000 and then he never got caught. A month goes by, 6 months go by, time has not anything to do with this sort of matters. And then one day, the thief is driving his car, he loses control of the car, he hits the pole, causes his car some damage. He takes the car to get fixed. Guess how much it's going to cost him to repair their car? $1,000. When that moment comes, what's happening? Well, this is the law of action-reaction, cause and effect. He has taken something that did not belong to him, and now that flies away from his hand in some way or the other. In moments that people usually call bad luck. The thing is that the Spiritist literature explains to us that there is no such a thing as good luck or bad luck. Our future is constantly constructed with our own hands. We are the architects of our own lives. So this individual has created that moment with his own hands. So as a result, he will experience the negative cause of what he has done. In order then to forgive someone, we must consider that we are not at all absolving them from the consequences of what they have done. With your forgiveness, the individual we'll still have to face the consequences. Most people, we all have this sense of justice in us. So most people are unwilling to forgive because they say to themselves, what they have done to me, it's wrong. There has to be justice. Obviously, there has to be justice. So therefore, when we understand that with our forgiveness, we're not changing the consequences of the action itself, they will have to pay for what they have done. That helps us to move on with our forgiveness, knowing that this person will have to face justice. Third reason that many people don't forgive, it's because they believe that forgiveness is actually forgetfulness. And like I said, if that would be the true definition of forgiveness, I have to develop a brain disease. That's not at all what forgiveness is. Our brain was designed to store information. So when something happens to us, it's right there. Even if we have an effort to forget what happened, it's there. It's imprinted in our neuron network. But obviously, the next question will be, how can I do to forget something that bothers me? Because I do not want this memory to keep causing pain in me. If forgiveness is not forgetfulness, what can I do then to forget something that bothers me? Because whenever that memory comes to my mind, it really shakes my core. It really disturbs me. What can I do about it? Well, with our patients, we have shown them a technique that has proven to be really useful. And I want to share that technique with you because this question actually begs the answer. How can I forget something that bothers me? Well, the technique is thought substitution. What is thought substitution? It's a mental exercise by which whenever the negative memory comes to our mind, we're going to immediately substitute for something positive. Now, in order for us to appreciate how hard that is, and also how beneficial it is for us to put that into practice, let's first talk about what memory does to us. Memory, it's something fantastic. It's so fantastic. It's so amazing that it actually makes who you are. I also worked with mentally ill patients and also working with people who are terminally ill in hospice. And I've dealt with many people with Alzheimer's. And usually they begin to forget their keys, then they forget their address, they forget where they parked their car, then they begin to forgetting people's names, and then they begin to forget their own name, and then they forget who they are. Then we forget our own names, we forget our relatives, and that becomes very problematic because we are the collection of our memories. That's what makes who you are. So working at that job, it helped me appreciate so much what memory is. And neuroscientists are always trying to figure out how memory works and the power of memory over us. And they did this experiment, which it's amazing for us to appreciate the power of memory. This is what they did. They called someone and they asked this individual to look at a chair. So they put an electrical, a scalp, in their scalp, a hat full of electrodes connected to a computer in order for them to measure their brain waves. This is called an electroencephalogram. And they did experiment number one. And what was experiment number one? Just look at the chair and nothing else. Don't think of anything else, just observe the chair. And while the subject was doing this, a particular wave showed in the computer screen. After that, they did experiment number two. Experiment number two was close your eyes, let's remove the chair, and now just think about the chair. So this individual just stood there with his eyes closed, just thinking about the chair. And as they did this, the neuroscientists thought either a smaller wave or a bigger wave will come in the computer screen because this was a different experiment. But for their surprise, the same kind of wave came on the computer screen, which for them was evidence that your mind can't distinguish what is seen from what is thinking. Your mind cannot differentiate what is observing at this moment from a memory that you already have. And what that has to do with forgiveness? Well, everything. Because when you think of something, to your brain, it is as if you are reliving it. So for example, let's say back in the year 2012, June 25th, someone came to me. He cursed me. He said some nasty words, offended me in front of my friends and family. And then at the last moment, he punched my face. On the following day, June 26th of 2012, I woke up and the first thing that came to my mind was this punch, was this memory, was this horrible incident. And why? Because I felt offended. And I spent the entire day miserable, asking myself, how in the world this guy came to me and punched me like that? Now it's June 27th of 2012, and here I am thinking about this man's punch, how he offended me, how he cursed me in front of my friends and family. Now it's June 28th of 2012, 3 days later, and I'm thinking about the horrible thing this man did to me. Now is July 25th of the year 2012, a month went by, and here I am full of resentfulness because of what this man did to me. And now it's June 25th of the year 2013. A year has passed by, and I still hold on to so much grudge. I feel again what this man did to me. Up to a whole year, I'm thinking about the offenses, how I felt so humiliated in front of friends and family. And now is the year of 2014, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22. 10 years have gone by, and I have held on to that negative emotion, to that sentiment of feeling humiliated because he punched me. The question is, how many times has this man punched me? He has punched me just once. But how many times have I punched myself? Well, you keep multiplying 10 times 365 days, and that gives us 3,650 punches. Wait a minute. So that means when I think of someone who has harmed me, I am reharming myself? Yes, that's exactly what that means. Whenever you remember something negative that a person has done to you, you are doing it to yourself. You are re-experiencing the pain over and over again. So it is not a wise thing to do to recall something bad that someone did to you. It's not as smart, it's not wise for us to remember a painful experience that we have lived in the past, because all that means we are re-hurting ourselves, we are re-harming ourselves. Not to mention that this individual, whoever has done harm to us, has control over us across time. 10 years have gone by, and here I am giving this individual the power to tell me how I'm supposed to live my life. So how can I forget then something that it's so negative? Well, this is where we have to understand how we give value to memory. Memories, just like everything else, have value. Now, the watch that I'm wearing here, it's a watch that does not have an absolute value. It's a watch that has a relative value. If the watch had an absolute value, wherever I went to buy this same kind of watch, the price would be one and the same. But the price of this watch is relative. What that means, if I go to the airport, it's one price. If I go to the local shopping mall, it would be another price. If I go on a vacation and I buy in a boat, it will be a different price, even though it's the same watch, because it has a relative value. Relative to what? Relative to where the watch is being sold. The same principle applies to our memories. Our memories do not have an absolute value, but a value that we ascribe to it. It's a relative value. And unfortunately, in my personal experience as a psychotherapist, most people give so much value to the hurtful memories, to the painful memories, and not the good memories. And they don't realize this, that this at times is done arbitrarily. Take, for example, the story of the birthday person. 100 individuals showed up. 100. Let's say that 99 came to the door, pressed the bell, the birthday person opened the door, and that person said, "Happy birthday. Here's your gift. Thank you so much for inviting me to this party." At the end of the party, this person came up again and said, "You know what? What an awesome party. The DJ, wow, I danced the whole night and the food was great. Thank you so much." 99 individuals said that to the birthday person. One individual out of the 100 came to the birthday person and said, "What a waste of my time. Why did you invite me to begin with? I rather had stayed home. You know, where did you buy this food from? It was horrible. And this DJ, is he stuck like in the 1940s? Because the music was so lame." And then he leaves. On the following day, who will the birthday person remember? Obviously, that single individual. And the question is, how in the world the opinion of one person is stronger than the opinion of 99 individuals? And that happens all the time in our personal lives. We have wonderful people that do things to us. We have people that we have never seen that do wonderful things to us. We arbitrarily forget all these people, but we keep in our mind very vivid, very alive, the opinion of that person. Why do we do this to ourselves? It's unbelievable. I was once doing this same lecture in a university in a room full of neuroscientists. And one person asked me, we do this for defense mechanism reasons. The reason being is because we have to remember what's negative in order not to allow to happen again. In the evolutionary process, we have learned to memorize, to recall what's negative, so we prevent ourselves from re-hurting ourselves. For example, when we're being chased by animals. Well, that's very true, because in modern days, let's say you go buy a car and you find the perfect salesman, one of those very smart individuals that look at you and they could tell you that you don't have no knowledge whatsoever about cars. And this guy rips you off and you leave the car store thinking that you did a great deal. You'll go home and someone with the same car looks at you and says, "What a coincidence. I just bought the car yesterday as well. How much did you pay for it?" And you ended up finding out that you paid actually $5,000 more for that car. What an awful experience. Now you feel like you're an idiot. Someone just, took advantage of your naiveness. So you want to remember that situation. However, you don't want to experience the emotion forever. 5 years from now, if you want to go buy a car, you want to recall the information, not relive the emotion for the past 5 years in order for another salesman not to do the same thing to you again. By the way, I am not advocating here that all salesmen are, take advantage of people. I'm just giving an example. I have to be very careful with these examples because I've seen it all in these lectures. And they'll put me in the corner afterwards. And look, now I'm not going to be able to sell any cars anymore after what you said. So we want to keep the information, but not the emotion of the information. In other words, memories have values. And unfortunately, in my personal experience, people value more the negative stuff they have done to them instead of the positive. And as a result, they keep reliving the pain over and over again. So what that means, that the perpetrator, whoever have done them harm, still harming them with their own consent. So how can I forget something that happened to me? Once again, you're not going to forget the information. That's because your neurons were made to store information. But you can definitely take away the value of that negative memory, the value of that painful memory, in order not to bother you. And how do you do this? Well, you do this by thought substitution. And what is thought substitution? Whenever the painful memory comes to mind, immediately think of something positive. Think of a moment that you lived, that you experienced, that brought you so much pleasure. Maybe you went to a vacation, a friend who is very special to you gave you a unique gift, a moment that we all have that unfortunately they go fast and fleeting because we don't value them. Think something good that happened to you. Let's say you always wanted to go on one of these big boats. You wanted to go on a cruise, and you finally did. You did a cruise with your family, and that day was so much fun. So if I am sitting down watching TV and suddenly I see in a movie a fight, and in that fight there are many people getting punched, and suddenly, this is how memory works, something triggers me to remember of my own experience. I recall the man punching my face. What am I going to do? Immediately, I'm going to think of the day I was in a cruise. Now, when we think of the details of anything that happens to us, we are solidifying the connection of our memories. When I sit there and I recollect the painful experience, let's say the man came to me, he was wearing blue, he said these words, the temperature was 65 degrees, all these individuals were there. When I sit there and I actually recollect all the details of the memories I experienced, I'm re-strengthening, I'm making stronger the neuron connections, the network of that particular memory. That's what I'm doing when I recall the details of the memory. So what am I going to do to remove the emotional value of that memory? Immediately, when that negative thought comes to my mind, I will not think of any details. I'll immediately substitute for something positive. And then I will spend my mental time thinking of the details of my positive experience. So I see myself getting the boat. I see myself with the luggage. I could smell the paint of the boat. I could see the people around me, the conversations that they're having. I can recollect the weather, the first food I actually ate on the cruise, the first pool I swam into. Whatever it is, you just enrich your memory full of details. And before you know it, you have not concentrated yourself on that negative thought. Now, I just mentioned here that if I think of something that happened to me 10 years ago, that neural network, it's very powerful because for the past 10 years, I have concentrated in focusing in that painful memory. So if I practice thought substitution just one time, do you think it's going to work? Obviously not. If I practice 2 times, is it going to work? Obviously not. If I practice for a week, it's not going to work. Reason being, it's because if I have concentrated all my mental energy in keeping those negative thoughts, those negative emotions into that memory, it's not going to disappear night and day. People would say, I don't believe in this stuff because I have practiced thought substitution and I don't feel any better. Well, that's because it takes time. Because the longer I have kept the resentfulness against someone, it will take considerable amount of time too, in order for me to release myself from the addiction of experiencing those emotions. Because people who are not versed in these kind of topics, they believe that you only get addicted to, material things, but we also get addicted to emotions. And some people, they get addicted to resentfulness. Some people get addicted to hatred. They get addicted to animosity. It's just unbelievable. Even if they have no reason, they will still experience those emotions just because they're addicted to it. Be very careful with people like that around your life, because for any reason that you don't even give them, they could be against you. It's nothing about you. It's the emotions they're addicted to. So thought substitution takes time in order for us to begin to see the effects of this mental exercise. If some of you believe that it's hard to be in shape, to go to the gym, eat right in order to have a healthy body, to practice thought substitution, it's even harder, just for the fact that we are addicted to these emotions. But once we realize that I am reharming myself by thinking of these negative things that happen to me, I'm reliving the pain, and not only I am reliving the pain, but I'm keeping the pain very strong. Once I realize that, this has nothing to do about the other individual. It's about me stopping with the pain in me. And then I'll begin practicing thought substitution. I cannot allow this memory to hang over my head for all these years. And then we begin the exercise. Whenever the negative memory comes up, immediately I think of something positive. Whenever this negative memory comes up, boom, immediately I think of something positive. And I'm thinking of the details of the positive memory. And what's going to happen? Well, maybe 3 months from now, you will remember that painful experience, but you will also realize that it doesn't bother you as the way it used to. 6 months after you keep practicing thought substitution, you realize that negative memory comes up to your mind, but then again, it bothers you still, but not as much. A year goes by and it bothers you even less. 2 years go by and it bothers you even less. You will get to the point in which you might even see the person who has harmed you, but that memory has no emotional value whatsoever. It doesn't bother you at all. You have freed yourself from the painful memory, from the painful emotion of that negative memory. That's what you have done. There is no Prozac, there is no psychiatrist, there is nothing that can do this for us except ourselves with this, I'll call it the mental treadmill. It's very difficult just because it's the beginning and we never did it before. But like anything else in life, with practice, it becomes more manageable until you get addicted to the good stuff, because you realized that it's up to you to value the good things that happens to you, and negative things, they bring experiences, they bring you teaching, but we should not conserve the painful emotions they bring to us. For many reasons. Not only we are harming ourselves, but in my personal professional experience, I have dealt, for example, with people who have been betrayed. The wife left the guy, or the guy left the wife, and now they're single. They're so full of resentfulness. They're so full of hatred for what happened. And as a result of the pain they feel, but not just the pain of being left, but the pain of being betrayed, they hate the other person so much that they create this aura of negativity around them, an aura that is repulsive in nature. And I've seen it, that even when they have the opportunity of having someone come into their lives, the repulsiveness from the hatred, it's so strong that they push people away. It's very common, actually, this experience. People who have been hurt so much because they have been rejected, that they actually reject others before they get rejected. It's like the pain of being alone, it's actually less than the pain of being rejected. And as a result, they reject people first before they get to be rejected. So it's never a wise thing to remember something painful that has happened to us. And if we do, what are we going to do now? Thought substitution. Let's only give value to the good things that have happened to us. The things that we label as being negative, they're there for our experience, they're there for our knowledge, for our growth, but they should not be there to us relive this painful emotions over and over and over again. So this is one of the most critical parts of this lecture, the knowledge of thought substitution. So let me make it very clear. You're not forgetting anything. You are removing the emotional value of that painful experience. And you're going to give emotional value to a positive experience that you had. And as a result, over time, the negative experience will lose its value and you will no longer be bothered by the memory of what that person did to you. The fourth reason why people don't forgive, the misconception of forgiveness, is that they believe that forgiveness is for the other individual. It's something that I'm doing to you. That's another big misconception. My friends, if you forgive a thief, you know what that thief will do? Will continue to steal from other people. That's what thieves do. They steal. If you forgive a betrayer, the betrayer will continue to betray other people because that's what they do. With your forgiveness, you're not changing the perpetrator. You're changing you. You're giving quality of life to you. The other person will continue on their path, but with your forgiveness, you're giving quality to your life. So then, if forgiveness is not to condone the behavior, we're not applauding anyone for what they have done. If forgiveness, it's not to absolve. If forgiveness is not to forget, if forgiveness is not for the other person, then what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is to set ourselves free from the prison of hatred. With your forgiveness, you are releasing yourself from that painful moment, which has probably made you stay stuck in that moment, in space and in time sometimes. When I recall something hurtful that has happened to me, that person has control of me. Where is the individual who has caused you pain at this moment? Maybe that individual is in a cruise. They're right there eating one of those buffets, never-ending food. They're swimming, taking pictures. This person is not even thinking of your existence. And what are we doing to ourselves? Here we are, recollecting everything they have done to us. So who's in control of my life? Is it me or the other person? It's the other person. And if the other person did this to me, why in the world I want to give that person the power over my life? It makes no sense. I will forgive someone when I understand that forgiveness is for me. Another thing to consider is that whoever did harm to us, another fact of life is only unhappy people likes to make other people unhappy. Only disturbed people like to make other people to feel disturbed. Only miserable people loves to make other people miserable. So when I think of the individual who harmed me and I consider who that person is, one of the things I'll come into conclusion is that that person, for them to hurt me, must be a very unhappy individual, must be a very disturbed individual, must be a very emotionally sick individual. And why in the world am I give that person the power over my life? It makes no sense. But unfortunately, in my personal professional experience, that's what we see people doing. We give them so much power over our lives. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the things that struck me as a surprise is how quickly people feel feared and how they easily are controlled by what they see. So I saw people with triple masks and gloves and alcohol and rubbing themselves all over because they do not want to get contaminated. But when it comes to emotional disturbance, it's amazing how easily people allow themselves to be contaminated by others. Think for a moment, you walk into a store and the person in front of you, they don't hold the door open. Here you are. The individual gets all offended. It's like their days are ruined, and someone calls them, how's everything? They will say, well, it's one of those days. And that's how they begin ruining everything. What do you mean one of those days? Just because this person didn't hold the door open for you? Or you met someone at the shopping mall and you said, good afternoon, you said hello, and they never replied to you. And then we feel all offended by that. What are the chances they never heard you? What are the chances they're deaf? What are the chances that they don't want to say hello and that has nothing to do with us? We respect who they are, but we impose on ourselves the obligation to maintain our serenity despite the craziness around us. So the other individual is a miserable individual, unhappy individual, and I will not allow their sickness to contaminate me. I will try to understand, have compassion, which means I don't agree with what you did. I just am not against you, because I should have pity upon what you have done, but I would not allow your disturbance to disturb me. And as a result, I will go on with my life, allowing myself to experience happiness again, which is another beautiful definition of forgiveness. We are giving ourselves the chance of re-experiencing happiness again, because those who hold to grudges, they do not experience happiness. They allow the negative emotions to control them, even if the person is out of sight. They allow resentfulness to be the predominant emotion they experience on a daily basis. What is resentfulness? Here you have, the word itself explains what it is. The prefix re means to do something over. To sent is to feel. So I am re-feeling the emotion over and over again. It's not a wise thing to do. So I believe we have 90 minutes in order for us to conclude. And let me finish with the story that is personal to me. I once read a biography of someone who we respect very much in the Spiritist movement. His name is Francisco Xavier. And I read his autobiography. And one day in his autobiography, he says that he came to learn that even animals, even dogs, even cats, even birds can teach you something special. And at the time, I thought he was exaggerating. What can a dog teach me? What can a cat teach me? This is too much. He's pushing for it, because I had no animals back then. So I met the person that will be my future wife. And then I think in our third date, she said, in the future, I want a dog. It's okay. Can I know you first before you start making requests? So I want a dog. I said, okay, what kind of dog would you like? She says, I want a dog that's little, there's calm, that it's always calm, a dog that doesn't bark. Okay, not a problem. And time went by. We got married. We were going to school. We were very active in our Spiritist center. And also we were working. So we had time for nothing. And we lived in a very tiny apartment. And it was her birthday. We're so busy. I went out with my friend to purchase her a gift. She was at school. And while I was driving, I think to myself, I remember she asked me for this dog. And such a beautiful person. I think she deserves the dog. But how in the world are we going to treat this dog? We're going to be bad parents for this dog because we don't have the time for the dog. But then I kept thinking of her and how much she loves dog. And I told my friend, he says, you know what? That's a good idea. Why not surprise her? So I went to a store and I found the dog exactly that matched her request. Small, calm, not barking. I took the dog back to our little apartment, and this apartment had just this little office, the bathroom, and our bedroom door. So all the doors were closed. I put the dog in our bedroom, and we sat in this tiny little kitchen, waiting for my wife to show up. So when my wife comes from the school and she opens the door, all the other doors were closed. So she thought to herself, oh my God, there's a surprise for me. But we all kept quiet, nothing happened, and my friend began to laugh. When he began to laugh, his laugh woke up the dog. The dog began to bark, and when that dog began to bark, my wife began to shake, and she almost couldn't walk to our bedroom. So when she opened the door and she found that dog disguised as a teddy bear, because that's how cute he was, he grabbed that little dog, she pressed the dog against her chest, and she began to cry. And tears were pouring out of her eye. And the first thing that came to my mind was our wedding date. She did not have a quarter of the emotion she was having with that dog. It's just unbelievable. all that joy the dog brought to her, and she kept crying and crying. And she looked at me and she says, do you know what kind of dog you bought? And I said to myself, of course, I'm very arrogant. I know it all. Of course, I know the dog I bought for you. She says, you bought exactly the opposite of the dog I asked you. She says, what do you mean? It's a tiny little dog. Look, he's quiet. And she says, you're dumb. They drugged him at the store. This is like the most hyper dog that you can ever find. It's a Cocker Spaniel, one of those with big ears. And I mean, she was right. And I said to her, you know what? We are spiritists. We're going to give him passes. We're going to calm this dog with our vibrations. And she said, let's give him a name that calms him down. We're going to call him Milo. My friends, it took us less than 24 hours to notice that there is nothing Milo in Milo. We named him Typhoon instead of Milo because he was like the wind in my house, just destroying everything. He chewed my shoes, he chewed a light bulb, he was like destroying everything, this dog. He says, oh my God, what in the world am I going to do with this? But I said, well, at least one thing I got right, he's small. And once again, she says, you're dumb, because he's a puppy right now. He's going to go to 45 pounds. I got nothing right about this dog. So both of us were working. We were tired. She's going in school. We have all this stuff to do. So when we came home, this dog was sleeping like for 16 hours. He was fully rested. So when we got home, he wanted to play. So here we are, we're trying to sleep and he's jumping all over us. I was looking for the on and off switch on the dog. Can I remove the batteries here somehow? We were so tired. So one day I'm trying to sleep. It's 3:30 in the morning and this dog, Typhoon, is jumping all over me. I'm looking for the window just to throw this dog out of the house. I can't deal with this anymore. My wife is tired. Both of us are super tired. So I get out of my bedroom and I go into the small office. And then I lie down on this dirty carpet. 15 minutes later, my wife comes in and she lies down next to me on the dirty carpet. So 10 minutes goes by and I tell myself, I can't believe we are on the floor on this dirty carpet because of this dog. Tonight, I'm going to throw him out. So when I go back to my bedroom and I flip this light switch on, he's like this in the middle of our bed. And he looked at me with his eyes. He was telling me, go ahead, you can sleep in my bed. I allow you to come back here. It's a horrible dog. But, one day I was working and we had this thing. Whenever he was too much, we put him in a cage. So he's barking, he's asking for my attention. He's doing everything he can to get to my attention. I just keep telling him, Milo, Typhoon, get out of here. Please leave me alone. So then he goes into the living room. He finds the laptop cable. He chews the laptop cable. He brings to me, he shows to me. And then he dropped it. And then the next thing that he does, which was amazing, he went to the cage by himself. Like the message was, I don't care what you do to me. I want your attention. And here I am in the cage. So if you guys know and you have dogs, they have a way to make you love them. And this dog, he found his way into our hearts because he got to a point that he wanted to sleep in the cage. And we're the one who took him from the cage and we put him in our bed because dogs are special beings. So we fell in love with Milo. We're doing everything for Milo. And one day I'm all ready to go to work. And because, like my friend Anna said, I used to work in jail, the correctional officers, they were not too pleasant to work with. So I really had to dress up. So I wear a suit with a tie because appearance conveys authority. So I was all ready to go to work. And then my wife says, can you go to the bakery, get some fresh bread, I'll prepare for you, and then you go. So when I opened the door, Typhoon escaped. Milo escaped to the street. So I climbed down the steps real fast, but he's faster than me. If you have these little dogs, not even with a bike, they're so fast. So he's crossing the street, the cars are coming, they're beeping the horn, and I'm after Milo, and I'm thinking to myself, now if a car runs over him, I'm gonna throw myself under the car because I'm so attached to this dog now. And he's running all over, I'm getting all messy. He allows me to catch him. I didn't catch him. He just stops right there. So I catch him, I bring him back to my apartment, and then I find these sandals that I have, and I begin to smack him right on his buttocks. And then I'm doing it. I'm smacking 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, because in my mind, the pain of teaching him a lesson is way less than the pain of seeing him dead. And he's not making a sound. He's just right there. And in my mind, I think that he understands he did something grave. So I keep just hitting him in the buttocks and he doesn't move. So I leave him, go back to the bakery, and while I'm waiting for the bread, I'm ready in so much regret. I said to myself, oh my God, this dog, all he wanted was just to follow me to work. That was it. He didn't do anything bad. He doesn't know any better. So I felt so sorry. And while I was going back, I said to myself, that's it. He's not going to look at me. He's going to be depressed under the bed, taking Prozac because he's so sad. He's going to be miserable. I'm going to be miserable. But when I walk to my apartment and I open the door, here comes Milo jumping all over me. The hype of his day was when we are coming home. And so he greeted me. After 10 minutes, he's jumping all over me, so happy because he saw me again. And at that moment, it came to my mind, Francisco Xavier's lesson that we should be so humble even to learn from a dog. And why? Because at that moment, I understood. That dog forgave me all that beating I did in 10 minutes. And we human beings, sometimes people just forget to say hello back to us. And we go on for days, weeks, years without talking back to that person again. Have the humility to learn even from a dog. Forgiveness brings us closer to God. It brings happiness to a heart. Let's not allow any disturbance of any kind, any emotional sickness to contaminate us. Let's value what's beautiful in our lives. And those who have harmed us, let's have compassion for them, which means I do not agree with what you have done to me. And I know you have to face the consequences of your actions, but I will no longer hate you because you're not worth of hating. You were worth of me have pity on you. And in that, we close our lecture by recalling one of Francisco Xavier's great poem he received from Castro Alves, a poem entitled March On. In other words, let's move ahead. Let's forget the past. Let's look forward because life walks forward and not backwards. Life is full of mysteries, encompassed of laws of beauty, which compels us to evolve. From God, we emanate. Multiple loves, we reincarnate, longing for perfection and love. In humanity, we seek the truth from any myths, yearning for peace and evolution. We cause in our path multiple lives and deaths, victims of our own disillusion. From the eternal struggle, building ourselves from the rubble, we learn ways to overcome. Despite the pain and misery, nevertheless, we grow ceaselessly from darkness to dawn. From the raindrop, a plant reaches the top, triumphant at last. The root appears to be gloom, but manure converts to perfume, transmutation at its best. The plant will be crowned with flowers all around, birds opera on their arrival. But flowers too shall pass, their martyrdom is a bless for the ground's revival. From nature, we are taught, work hard, that's the law, all life is in movement. Sculpting through sacrifices, we carve blocks of vices. Inside a stone lies a monument. Lessons from suffering and pain, change will always remain, even narrows, tyrants without seas, under the law of reincarnation. Through many trials and expiations, they too will be messengers of peace. Let no one be idle. Today's angel was yesterday's Adam. Perfection is everyone's destiny. Life's purpose, splendid. God's love, surrounded our objective, universe's eternity. On earth, from time to time, sublime beacons of light dissipates the shadows away. Their presence are felt forever in us they dwell, transforming night into day. Never in history a sacrifice such as the one portrayed by Christ transpired for the sake of truth. From the cross, the message is heard. Forgive all. Always serve. Your pain, I will soothe. It's Socrates and the hemlock. It's Caesar's war being fought, inflaming oppression and cruelty. It's Celine and his art, the imperialism of Bonaparte, spreading domination and cruelty. It's Dr. King's I Have a Dream, Lincoln's speeches, never seen, the incarnation of renovators. It's the embodiment of humility from the charitable Francis of Assisi. Blessed be the speakers who illuminate the seekers, inspiring virtues and light. Bliss is yours to conquer, and although perfection is yonder, your progress is bright. In the entire universe, divine celestial verses decree, march on. A heavenly love awaits. Have hope, have faith towards the infinite to come. Thank you, God, for the blessing of speaking, and to you all, thank you for listening.